Hi there, folks. Welcome to the program. This, of course, is Stinchfield, the podcast. I have absolute proof now that Democrats act like petulant children. The problem is the Democrats are also dangerous. We know that they promote violence. We know that they engage in lies. We know that they will do anything they can to spread mistruths about President Trump, undermine him, undermine the American agenda of putting America first. But now they engage in petty behavior. I would also call this rude behavior, childlike behavior, not funny behavior, out of line behavior, not an example for the children behavior. What am I talking about? I'm going to take you today to the floor of the California State Assembly, where a friend of mine, Carl DeMaio, state assemblyman, he's a Republican, I believe from the San Diego area, is giving a speech on the floor about a resolution supporting gay pride that California is offering up. He's totally against it. Carl DeMaio is the first openly gay Republican to serve in the California State Assembly, adamantly against this resolution, a resolution that says that criticizes any effort to prohibit, quote, life-saving gender affirmative care. Well, we know that it's not life-saving. We know that it's life-altering, life-changing, life-devastating gender-affirming care. So Carl DeMaio speaking out against that. And what the Democrats do is nothing short of stunning. Quite frankly, I thought I've seen it all until I saw this. So we're going to talk about that on the show today. We'll go through that. We'll also go through, as we move up to July 4th, one of the things I'm most concerned about. More terror attacks in the United States on behalf of sympathizers of Iran and radical jihadism here in the United States with open borders. We're going to talk about that today. July 4th would be a big day to be a target here in the United States. Before we do, though, folks, let me tell you about my friends over at Colonial Metals. You talk about jihad. You talk about uncertainty. This is why I say put your money into precious metals. Colonial Metals Group can help you take an existing 401k or IRA and turn it into a precious metals IRA. Now, I trust the guys and gals over at Colonial Metals Group. A lot of gold companies come to me and say, hey, Grant, will you promote our company? I chose Colonial Metals because I know what they're about. So if you want to learn more about how you can protect your finances with precious metals, go to freegoldguide.com/grant. That's freegoldguide.com/grant. Colonial Metals will help you, or you can call them at 800-458-7356. That's 800-458-7356. We know that Iran, China, Russia, these BRICS nations are waging an absolute war on the U.S. dollar. All the more reason to put some money into precious metals. It's a portfolio protection maneuver. That's what I call it. Colonial Metals Group can help you. freegoldguide.com/grant. All right. With that, folks, let's get the show started.
Uncensored and unapologetic. This is Stinchfield. Here's your host, Grant Stinchfield.
All right. So thankfully, we are now officially out of Pride Month. Okay. I don't want to have any months. I don't want Italian Heritage Month. I don't want Gay Pride Month. I don't want Black History Month. I don't need Asian Culture Month. I don't need any months. Just focus on making my life better. If you're a lawmaker in any state house across the country, if you're a lawmaker in Washington, D.C., focus on keeping me safe. Focus on making sure the infrastructure is there so we can have the free flow of commerce in America. Focus on, if you're in Washington, the national defense. Beyond that, I don't need you to focus on much. Certainly not gay pride, okay? Now, this is what Carl DeMaio was talking about. So, Assemblyman Carl DeMaio, California Republican, as I mentioned, the first openly gay Republican in California, speaking out against this gay pride resolution, raising the gay pride flag in California to hail gay pride as the next savior of California. Ridiculous, okay? All of it. It's also radical and it's also dangerous, as you're about to hear. But what Democrats do to stop him from spreading his message is nothing short of stunning. First, some of his message.
I've said time and time again on this floor that I will never vote in favor of one of these honorary resolutions if it contains dishonesty, if it divides us, or if it speaks in a manner that does not reflect the views of my constituents. My constituents, the caucus I'm a member of, the Republican caucus, and all Californians, we value, we respect, we affirm our LGBT community members.
I agree. I value every American, no matter what your beliefs are, other than if you're a criminal, okay, or you're a terrorist. But for the most part, if you're a law-abiding citizen, whatever your beliefs are, gay, lesbian, whether you're Jewish, Christian, Buddhist, whatever it may be, we live in a free country. Your beliefs are your beliefs, and I value all of you, and I value human life, and I want to show people respect. What I don't need to do is hail special groups, give groups special privileges that other groups don't get. Because you happen to be gay, you shouldn't get an extra privilege, okay? Just because you're black, you shouldn't get an extra privilege. As goes, if you're white, you shouldn't get an extra privilege. So special privileges for special classes of people, I don't like. I don't like making special classes of anybody. But this is what government is specialized in. So we can respect gay and lesbian folks. We can tell them why we may disagree with the lifestyle or the choices or all of these things. But in the end, we should still show them respect. It doesn't mean we have to put them on a pedestal and give them all kind of special deals. Now, this resolution is a resolution. It's not a law in California. It's basically just saying, hey, we as Californians believe all of this crazy nonsense, like gender-affirming care, like allowing kids to chop their nuts off, all these things that I do not agree with. Why are you even focused on resolutions? They're not laws. You don't need to focus on resolutions. They spent more time on this resolution than they did on lowering gas prices in California, which have the highest in the country. So here's what happens to Carl DeMaio.
It goes much further than that to endorse very controversial and extremist policy positions, which is very unique.
Mr. DeMaio,
It's very,
Mr. DeMaio, just
Yes,
a moment,
Mr.
please.
Speaker.
Just a moment. Mr. Reading Clerk, can you hold Mr. DeMaio's time? Sorry, I have a very important announcement today. Mr. Juan Carrillo, I understand it's your birthday today. Members, will you join me in wishing Mr. Carrillo a very happy birthday today?
You cut off an assemblyman elected by the people in his time on the floor of the state assembly to wish Juan Carrillo a happy birthday. That was Speaker Pro Tem Josh Lowenthal, meaning he's the second in command of the state assembly in California. Of course, a Democrat. Okay. If he does it once, maybe you give the benefit of the doubt that he's trying to be funny. Maybe. I don't like it. But what happens when he does it twice?
we could do that here today, but you chose not to. I offered the author
Mr. DeMaio, just one moment, please. Just a moment.
Are we going to have another birthday?
Excuse me, Mr. DeMaio. Just a moment. Mr. Reading Clerk, can you hold Mr. DeMaio's time? Members, you'll have to forgive me, but on Thursday last week, I forgot it was Damon Connolly's birthday. Can you please join me in welcoming a very happy birthday?
You know, just because you disagree with somebody doesn't mean that you act like this. It's now going down the list of birthday celebrations. I wonder if he wished any Republican a happy birthday. I doubt it. So Carl DeMaio is trying to get the point across that California should not be spending time on needless resolutions that promote radical ideas. Instead, they should be focused on the people of California. In what way, you might ask? Well, focus on the people of California lowering gas prices, trying to figure out a way not to incentivize homelessness. I'd say figure out the problem of homelessness, but that's nearly impossible. Just stop incentivizing it, and you'll have a real solution to homelessness. Start arresting people for camping on the street, which the Supreme Court now says you can do. Start doing that. Crime in California. Why don't you start enforcing the laws? Why don't you start passing some laws that would empower police to keep people safe. No, that doesn't happen. Instead, it continues the childish behavior.
Agree to a sex change operation, which are controversial positions that unfortunately are referenced and implied in this resolution.
Mr. DeMaio, I'm going to have to interrupt you one more time. If you don't mind, sir, if you wouldn't mind waiting. Mr. Reading Clerk, can you hold his time? Members, I'm unsure if you're aware, but tomorrow is Mr. Gibson's birthday.
Oh, you are a lousy mother scratcher, loser, jerk. A despicable, disrespectful jerk. And I'm going to ask you, is this the example you want set for children? It's the state assembly. I get it's in California. I get you folks in the state assembly in California have ruined what was once a beautiful, great state. Ruined it, destroyed it. Okay? The People's Republic of California is very real. Do I dare do this again?
Understand what I'm saying today is true. This is not about affirming the LGBT community. It's about using them as a political pawn to divide us.
30 seconds.
When you had an opportunity to unite us, you chose division.
You're out of order, Mr. DeMaio. You are out of order.
Now he's out of order. You know what was out of order? You interrupting him to announce birthdays. You acting like a childish fool. That was out of order. So what does Carl DeMaio have to say about all of this? Well, I interviewed him on the Real America's Voice show. I'm going to play that interview for you in a minute because this is a good man who is an important voice in California, and he's being disrespected, to say the least. So I'm gonna play that for you in just a moment. But before I do that, folks, I want to tell you about my friends over at NFN8. This is get20now.com. We call it Get20 Now because this is 20% annualized interest paid out monthly. You can get this deal up to 20% annualized interest, depending on the deal that you choose here. 20% annualized interest on your investment paid monthly. This is unheard of. The stock market's not going to guarantee you that. This is contractually agreed upon, okay? I have made a sizable investment with the folks at NFN8. They've lived up to their promises to me. So every month, like clockwork, I get this money direct deposited into my account. This is an investment in data centers, which is like the hottest investment going right now, because this is about Bitcoin mining. The folks at get20now.com are locking up warehouses in places across the country where they buy electricity so cheap, and they have secured technology to run these mining machines at a cheaper, more efficient rate than anybody else can, which allows them to mine Bitcoin, pay you this 20% interest on your investment, and everybody is left smiling. So I urge you, go to get20now.com to find out how you do this. Fill out the form. They'll get back to you. When they call you, either answer their call or call them back because they are very busy. This has been, as you can imagine, a very popular investment choice among Stinchfield's army. I think this is the only place they're offering it, and it's been very successful with our viewers. So up to 20% monthly income. Get20now.com is the website. Get20now.com. Pay them a visit. So Carl DeMaio, the state assemblyman from California, came on the Real America's Voice show. I figure I'll play a clip of that for you. Here it is.
To try to, well, let's call it what it is. He's a bully. Democrats harassed and bullied me because they didn't want to give me my right to speak and represent my constituents, but more importantly, to represent a majority of the gay community, to represent a supermajority of Californians who don't want the extremism of gender-bending surgeries for 13-year-old and 12-year-old kids without parental consent. They don't want the extremism of ending the integrity of girls' sports. These are not even positions that the gay community supports, but the Democrat Party today in California, they're so extreme that they do not want people to know that they don't have the support of the majority. And that needs to be called out. And because I was calling them out, they wanted to bully me into silence. Well, I'm not going to be bullied and I'm not going to be silenced.
Assemblyman, this was a resolution, too. It's not even a law. So California, I have it right, the Assembly's wasting time with resolutions that mean nothing and then wishing fellow Assembly members happy birthday instead of taking care of a lot of issues in California.
That's correct. I mean, they spent more time on the gay pride resolution than they did on gas prices in California, which are $2.50 higher than the national average. They've spent more time on gay pride than they have on stopping the release of sexually violent predators into our residential communities. The list of problems that they have neglected goes on and on and on, but here they are. Passing a virtue signaling resolution that is dishonest and extreme. In this resolution, they basically say that hate crimes are up against gays. That's not true, actually. Hate crimes are the lowest level since we started tracking those numbers. Why? Because no one gives a damn anymore if you're gay or you're straight. They don't care. Americans are accepting. They want to just be left alone. They want to treat people with dignity and respect, and that's it. Well, but that's not what the modern day Democratic Party is all about. They want people to live in fear. They want to divide us. They want to absolutely fuel hate, and that's what this resolution was about. We gave them a chance, Grant, to do something that was basic commemoration, and they decided they didn't want to unite us. They wanted to divide us.
It's amazing because there is all that. And then there's also the idea you should lead by example. Look, we're not all going to agree on everything. That's fine. It's America, okay? I know where I stand. They know where they... But when you become rude and immature like this, it's not an example for people out there. I'm going to play one more clip. You said it, I don't know, like 5 times. Here's a third example of it. Watch.
Agree to a sex change operation, which are controversial positions that unfortunately are referenced and implied in this resolution.
Mr. DeMaio, I'm going to have to interrupt you one more time, if you don't mind, sir. If you wouldn't mind waiting, Mr. Reading Clerk, can you hold this time? Members, I'm unsure if you're aware, but tomorrow is Mr. Gibson's birthday.
Honestly, when I first heard it, I chuckled, but I don't even think it's funny, Assemblyman, and I'll give you the last word.
Look, when they can't argue with what you're saying, they try to silence you. And so Democrats have said that they're against bullying and harassment. But the truth is, what was exposed with this exchange, they're the biggest bullies, biggest harassers that you can imagine, because they're a party of hate. And that was unmasked yesterday. They're not about dignity and respect and valuing people and bringing people together. They're about fear. They're about hate and division. And we were able to expose that yesterday. We gave them a chance to unite everybody and basically have a commemoration resolution, but they chose to divide us. And that's shameful. It needs to be understood by voters.
I agree with Carl DeMaio. Think about what is happening. If you're a Republican in California, you are so behind everybody else, okay? You are so behind the 8 ball. You are so outnumbered, so outmanned, so outgunned, but yet they put up a fight. And I think Republicans across the country can take cues from the very few Republicans in the State House in Sacramento that are doing this, that are putting up a fight, even when all odds are against them. When there's really, the reality is they're not going to win this fight, but they still put it up. And that is very, very important. You know who else puts up a fight is Kari Lake. Now, we haven't heard from Kari Lake a lot since she was appointed by President Trump to take over this media arm of the federal government. She was called in to testify last week. And she gave an opening statement, and I now know why the media despises Kari Lake. I know why they are afraid of Kari Lake. Let's go through some of this.
And Ranking Member Meeks and members of this House Foreign Affairs Committee, thanks for having me. My name is Kari Lake. I'm the Trump administration senior advisor to the U.S. Agency for Global Media. Before I get started, Mr. Chairman, I'd like to let you know this opening statement I'll be delivering is a shortened version of a longer version that I have submitted to you earlier and would love to be put into the congressional record. Last December, President-elect Donald Trump called me and asked if I would help reform U.S. Agency for Global Media and the Voice of America, and I said yes. I was honored and eager to help these institutions tell America's story to the world. But within days in my role as senior advisor, it became increasingly clear that reform was nearly impossible. The agency was incompetent and mismanaged and deeply corrupt, politically biased, and frankly, a serious threat to our national security.
You know the reality? She could be talking about any agency inside the federal government today. Anyone, specifically the State Department, okay? Which I think this may fall under the purview of the State Department, but you talk about State Department. You could say this about the Department of Education. You could say this about the EPA. You could say this about Veterans Affairs. You name every agency. Deeply corrupt, flawed, totally biased. You've got Washington insiders running the show that love Democrats because Democrats love big money and big government, and they keep the big money flowing to the big government.
USAGM oversees VOA, Office of Cuba Broadcasting, and grantees like Radio Free Asia, Radio Free Europe, Middle East Broadcasting Network, Open Technology Fund, and Frontline Media Fund, all of which are 100% funded by the hardworking American people. Over the past 15 to 20 years, the agency has become a significant national security risk. They hire a shockingly high number of foreign nationals, and they conduct subpar security vetting, so bad that top intelligence agencies revoked this agency's ability to do even the most basic background checks. So many of USAGM's hires come from countries hostile to the United States. Over the decade from 2010 to 2020, Office of Personnel Management and the Office of the Director of National Intelligence repeatedly flagged severe security failures, but U.S. AGM leadership ignored them.
Ignored them? You literally have this agency that is operating overseas that's supposed to be a messaging arm of the United States government, and you've got foreign nationals in charge of that messaging? Foreign nationals that now have access to what? Government computers? Are they hooked in to Washington, D.C.? Are they ripe for hacking? That's one side of security. What about the propaganda arm? What about when they're not pushing the messaging of America, but pushing the message of themselves? To me, you think, all right, Voice of America, I haven't really even heard of it. What is it about? I remember Good Morning Vietnam, Radio Free Europe, you hear it in the song. But this is really still a thing. Do we even need it? I don't think we do. Not with the emergence of social media. I don't think there's any need for this agency. And quite frankly, I love Carrie Lake. She's become a friend of mine. But I'd like to put her out of business here. This agency needs to just go away.
They continued to grant journalists and technicians, many from foreign nations, high-level security access based on falsified documents and incomplete background checks, phony names, phony social security numbers. Even after corrective actions were taken in the final months of the Trump administration, these safeguards were reversed by the incoming Biden administration. The scale of the problem is staggering. During the first Trump administration, the political appointees led by CEO Michael Pack got to work fixing it. And they discovered that out of 150 people who were hired during that time period when they weren't doing appropriate vetting, 500 of them were still out there and they could not find them. They went back and re-vetted everybody, but 500 had gone missing. They could not be located for further screening. Foreign employees with social security numbers that are fake and fake names given top secret access now missing.
What is Voice of America giving top secret access to anybody for? You should issue a memo to these people. They put it out on their radio program or whatever it is they're doing. That's it. They shouldn't have top secret access. And they had fake social security numbers. Where is the mainstream media on this? No coverage of this hearing. Again, folks, this was last week. Nobody's covering this. Two reasons why. They don't like Carrie Lake Straight Talk, so they don't want to give her any publicity, and they don't want to show that the Biden administration, again, ineptitude that really risked our national security, our safety and security of all of us here at home.
That keeps me up at night. My team is working to track them down. Our new security director is working to try to turn this agency around and make it where it's safer. It's a vast problem that we've uncovered. We've also uncovered that the grantees like Radio Free Europe hired people later identified as foreign spies. At one point, they nearly hired more than 20 spies from a nation hostile to America. Those hires were stopped thanks to a timely tip, and I'm happy to give you more information on that in a secure setting. Voice of America has employed individuals with direct ties to hostile nations. They even once paid paid for somebody who worked previously in Russian media writing anti-American stories to come on the staff and continue to write anti-American stories. At one point, a serious security threat to America, an office of Cuba Broadcasting Cuba, was declared to be a national security threat. He was fired, thankfully, but he worked there for quite some time.
You got Russian writers that was spewing anti-American hate that they hire on to come into our own American-based network operating overseas to spew American hate. You got a national security risk in Cuba who, gets fired. Well, where is he now? What did he gain? What access did he have? All of this, folks, is outrageous. I was going to literally play just a clip of this from Kari Lake, but I can't help but think we need to play more.
So how do they get so many foreign nationals in? Well, they abuse the J-1 visa program, which is a pathway to citizenship intended for exchange students and cultural exchanges, students, camp counselors, and au pairs. It's not intended for journalists, and it's created severe vulnerabilities, and frankly, it has displaced many, many American workers who could have filled these jobs.
Oh, you mean this crazy immigration system that Joe Biden completely exploited had virtually Russian and Cuban spies working for America, in Voice of America, in charge of messaging for America? Oh, go figure. The ineptitude of the Biden administration is so outrageous, folks. It disgusts me. How we're in as good a spot as we are right now is beyond me. He did great. He went to great lengths to destroy America. Him, his Obama cronies, running the show, all of them. Thank you, Kari Lake, for exposing this. In Voice of America, I thought to myself when I first heard Kari Lake was going there, I'm like, man, that's kind of an obscure place for a very outspoken, very smart, bright young lady who could do great things for America. Well, turns out she's doing great things for America in an obscure agency that was being exploited by what could have been foreign spies. Not anymore. Not on President Trump's watch, because he put the right people in the right positions. But we do have an issue. Radical Islam is rising up in America. And again, I do fear that coming up on July 4th, another terrorist attack could certainly be in the works. We've seen the series of them. Could we have a monster on July 4th? Maybe. We'll go through some of that here in just a moment. But before we do, folks, I want to tell you about my friends over at EnergizedHealth.com. This is about intercellular hydration, getting hydrated at a cellular level. That doesn't mean just pounding water. There's science behind this. The folks at Energized Health can help you. First and foremost, it will help you lose body fat, and a lot of it. I lost 15 pounds in the first 2 weeks of the Energized Health program. It will also help you gain muscle mass, something Ozempic and the other fat shots can't do. All right, you get that Pompeo neck on the fat shot. You don't want that. You want to do it the natural way, which is also happens to be a very quick way and a not hard way. I'm not going to say easy, but not hard. It takes a little commitment on the Energized Health program. But once you start hydrating your cells at a cellular level, you get joint pain going away. Mental clarity starts to come back into focus. Your skin clears up. You suffer from asthma. Asthma problems start to go away. Even your lungs get hydrated. This is what it's about. It's about taking your life back. I urge you, get with the folks at EnergizedHealth.com. They helped me change my life. You just tell them Grant told you to call them, told you to get with them. Grant Stinchfield. EnergizedHealth.com. That's EnergizedHealth.com. Don't wait. It is time now to take back your life. Okay. I love all my sponsors. I really do. And I use all of them too, which is what's really great. We have an issue in America where we had open borders now for 4 years. We have thousands upon thousands, hundreds of thousands of criminals. We may even have millions of criminals that came across the border. Now, we know that every one of them is a criminal because you came across illegally. But what about potential jihadists, quote, holy warriors? What about that potential as we come up on July 4th? Could they be planning another giant attack on the United States? I believe the answer is most certainly yes. The question will become, will we stop them? Tom Homan was raising the concerns over sleeper cells in the U.S.
Can you assess that issue particularly? How many Iranians are in the country that are in sleeper cells trying to do bad to America right now?
Well, look, you and I have talked about this many times. I said the last 4 years, my biggest concern was this open border was the biggest national security vulnerability this country's ever seen. So I pulled numbers this morning just from a CBP under Joe Biden. There was 1,272 nationals of Iran released in the country.
Excuse me, how many? Iranian nationals, over 1,000 released into the country. Now, I know many of the Iranian people who escaped dictator Iran and came to the United States, and they have made fabulous citizens. I laughed at President Trump when he says they can be a little difficult to do business with. I've done business with Iranians, and yes, they are tough business negotiators. They also love freedom for the most part. These are decent people. And, you know, Christianity is on the rise in Iran, so I do actually have great hope for Iran. More hope for Iran than I ever did for Afghanistan or Iraq. Because I think the people there do want freedom. Not my job to help them get there. That's their job. It's not America's job to help them get there. That's their job. But I also know there are radicals inside Iran. Radicals that believe with the Al-Qaeda style way of thinking, the ISIS way of thinking, the terrorist way of thinking, that Allah calls them to root out the infidels, go after the Zionists, and until all of them are eradicated, they will not be happy. That is a way of thinking. And sadly, I think it's a prevalent way of thinking. So now you have Tom Homan sounding the alarm on all of this. What about Kristi Noem? She's the Secretary of Homeland Security.
No, we did see thousands of people come into our country over an open border under the Biden administration that came from the Middle East. We have always been aware of the fact that some of these folks that may have come into our country could have potentially been radicalized. And so that is why we continue every day to go out and identify individuals that could be a threat to our homeland. And we'll continue to work to do that. We recognize that as tensions escalate, that means that there could be more potential for threats here at home. And so that's why we're at an elevated threat right now, and we'll continue to stay diligent.
Look, it's interesting when I hear people in positions of power talk about we're at an elevated level of threat right now. No, we are always at the highest level of threat. Folks, I'm telling you, there is never a lull in all of this. You ask anybody that's in intelligence gathering when it comes to studying radical jihad, radical Islam, there's never a lull. Every day is an excuse for them to attack us. They are commanded to attack us. They hate us. Generations of them have hated us. They train their children to hate us. Just look at the video you see from Hezbollah and Hamas training 8-year-olds to use mortar rounds, to carry machine guns. They're training generations of people to kill not just Americans, not just Israelis, not just Jews, but any non-believer. So when we talk about an elevated threat level, yes, with everything going on with Iran and Israel and the unrest between China and the United States, of course, this starts to get the hackles on my neck go up. But the reality is the hackles need to be up all the time. Why? because we have people like this in the United States. I'm going to play this imam for you, and I want you to listen very carefully to his words.
Have you lost all sense and sensibility? Do you not understand that after Iran, it is every single Muslim superpower in the region? Do you really think that it is just one land?
So what he's talking about is Israel. And he's making a claim that Israel wants to take over the world. That is not the case. In fact, it is the other way around. Islamic jihadists want to take over the world. Islamic radicals want to take over the world. They say it in the name of Allah. This is why I don't actually believe Islam is a true religion. I believe it is a war plan.
You cheering them on against Iran is you cheering them on against yourself when your own turn comes. They have publicly and blatantly said they want a greater Israel project. They want to gobble up every single Muslim land and region. Some of their maps that they say greater Israel includes Mecca and Medina. And here you are, oh naive, foolish person.
No, you're the foolish person. You're also the dangerous person, because what you're doing with that kind of rhetoric is you're talking to a crazy person that is going to take that and go out and do something really bad. And I mean really bad, whether they go after a synagogue, whether they go after Jews, or whether they go after any of their so-called non-believers. We're all at risk of getting caught up in this. That is an imam from Texas. They want to cultivate that kind of thought right here where I'm broadcasting from in Texas, not 20 miles from where I am. They want this epic city, and they want to bring Sharia law in, and Texans are doing everything they can do to push back against this, but it's on U.S. soil. And we've got to be awake to the fact that they are here on U.S. soil, and they aren't going anywhere anytime soon. Look, one thing about terrorists, specifically Islamic terrorists, I hate to call this a compliment, but in many respects, they would take it as one. They are patient. They don't live in the headline news world that Americans live in. They don't live in the instant gratification world that Americans live in. If a jihadist needs 10 years to plan the greatest attack ever carried out on the Western world to destroy America, to destroy the way of life, or do everything they can to do that, they will wait 10 years. They will take all the time they need in order to make the attack perfect, which is why we are always under threat. They won't rush it. Now, I want you to consider this. With Iranian sleeper cells in the United States, with Al-Qaeda sleeper cells in the United States, I wouldn't put it past having ISIS and Hezbollah sleeper cells in the United States, Boko Haram, you name it. They have supporters here, and there is no such thing as a lone wolf jihadist. They all take their cues from the mother organization. Some of them are more supported financially from the mother organization than others, but there's no such thing as a lone wolf. Anybody that acts carrying out what this imam wanted carried out is not just acting alone. He's acting on behalf of that kind of radical thinking. That kind of radical thinking we need to push back against. And here's what I do. I pray every day for law enforcement. I pray every day for those charged with keeping us safe and rooting out these plots against us, because you better believe those plots are far and wide. And so we need to hope that they are diligent. And again, I've said it a million times, but especially as we come up on July 4th, this very important birthday of the greatest nation in the world. Now is the time for all of us to be vigilant, more vigilant than ever before. Just because you see somebody that's being suspicious doesn't mean someone can arrest them. But it does mean that someone can go talk to them. Someone can investigate them. Someone can see what's happening. And so with this, I would offer up to law enforcement agencies, take threats seriously. Take suspicious activity seriously. Now more than ever. We are living in a very dangerous time and have been even before 9/11. But the threat level now is the same as it was on 9/10/2001. Okay? It is the very same. Don't think that it is not. That is my warning for you so far today. All right, folks, my friends at Patriot Mobile. You know, I love these guys. PatriotMobile.com/Grant. 972-PATRIOT is the number to call them. I have a Patriot Mobile phone. It is so easy. You can upgrade your phone. You can get a new phone. You can use your old phone. Switching literally takes minutes with the 100% U.S.-based customer service team. Why are you funding the woke left? If you're with the other big cell phone companies, you are taking part in funding the woke left. The organizations and nonprofits that those cell phone companies give money to will make your stomach sick. Not Patriot Mobile. Hey, I got my Folds of Honor shirt on. Patriot Mobile, big supporter of Folds of Honor, okay? Big supporter of the National Rifle Association. Big supporter of free speech groups. This is what Patriot Mobile is about. It's why I want you to be with them as a parallel economy to help supporting companies that are supporting this country, not tearing it down. And the service you are not going to sacrifice. You get to pick from the three networks. You choose which network you want to be on. So you're not going to give up quality. I promise you. PatriotMobile.com/Grant. You got to make the switch. Use the promo code Grant for a free month service. PatriotMobile.com/Grant. Make that switch today. You will not regret it. That I can guarantee. All right. Now, turning to the mainstream media. You know, there's something happening out there today that the mainstream media is, well, getting their butts called out. This is Michael Wolff. He is the author of the book Landslide, The Final Days of the Trump Presidency. You would think he's a monster liberal, but I want you to listen to what happens with Brian Stelter.
Seeing people on television and immediately calling them.
But maybe that's how it works sometimes.
I don't want you to think.
Is that how it works? That's how you get access?
But I don't want you to think that what I said at that point was in any way inauthentic. I think the media has done a terrible job on this. I think you yourself, you're a nice guy. You're full of sanctimony. You become part of one of the parts of the problem of the media.
So Stelter has been crushed in the media, right? I mean, he's been fired. He's been moved off. I had to play this clip for you because it holds true.
You come on here and you have a monopoly on truth. You know exactly how things are supposed to be done. You are one of the reasons people can't stand the media. I'm sorry.
You're cracking me up.
It's your fault.
He's one of the reasons why people can't stand the media. And he is. So this is the show Reliable Sources on CNN. And look, this guy is and I'm talking about the interviewee, Wolff. He's no conservative, but he's calling it like it is.
So what should I do differently, Michael?
Don't talk so much. Listen more. People have genuine problems with the media. The media doesn't get the story right. The media exists in its own bubble.
That's true. I agree.
You got to stop. I mean, that last segment that I just had to listen to of all of the people saying the same old stuff. Also, you're incredibly repetitive. It's week after week. I mean, you're the flip side of Donald Trump. Fake news, and you say virtuous news.
We just figure out what is real.
I mean,
I'm listening.
So
figuring out what is real is not so easy, and right. Most people don't want to turn to Brian Stelter to tell us what's real.
So I play this because Brian Stelter was ultimately fired from CNN. I believe it was in August of 2022. He was ousted. Why? For exactly what that liberal, that Trump hater is saying about Brian Stelter. Now, do we have that in the world today? I want you to watch this episode of Piers Morgan Uncensored when his guest gives it to Piers Morgan.
It's why my show's a lot more popular than yours, because I'm better at it than you. So stop the lectures about how good a journalist I am, or how good a broadcaster I am, or how good my team are. Following you. A lot more people watching you. But most people think you become a delusional loon. And I think that's sad.
My dad is bigger than your dad.
Not my dad, just the number of people that watch my show. Massively dwarfs yours.
My dick is bigger than your dick. Are you really down to that, Piers? Well, I've got some evidence that it isn't, but I'll not go there because I'm actually astounded at the sheer ignorance, which I'm being very kind and calling it ignorance. I could easily call it lying. I could easily call it willful ignorance.
Of course you can.
That you didn't know there's tea ladies lying dead in the Iranian TV station.
To be
and
clear,
you interviewed Bennett and didn't even mention it to him.
To be clear.
So he's calling out Piers Morgan for his program, and Piers Morgan at many times deserves to be called out. There is a pushback now against the mainstream media that is very, very real, okay? And this pushback deserves to happen. And I play the clip back from Brian Stelter because it started around 2022. After everybody realized the election was stolen in 2020, we got over that. We see the disaster of Joe Biden, what the media did. They covered up for him, and then in 22, things start to change. Then we get the election of President Trump in 2024, and now people are just absolutely fed up with the mainstream media. In fact, we're done with the mainstream media. And you know what else? People are calling out those on the right as well who are not with the program. You have rhinos in Washington who are also being called out, and that's a good thing. Rhinos like Elizabeth Murkowski of Alaska. Rhinos like Senator Tillis. I can go down Lindsey Graham that want forever wars. All these people are now being called out because they're not America first. In many respects, I don't even think some of them are true Republicans. Lisa Murkowski can be lumped into that crew, by the way. This was her on the GD Politics podcast being asked about whether or not she'd switch parties. Now, Lisa Murkowski has been a thorn in the side of Republicans. Important legislation gets held up by Lisa Murkowski, Susan Collins in Maine. They're not committed to the agenda of conservatives. Many have thought she might start caucusing with the Democrats. That would not be good for Republicans. I will admit that. Somebody needs to take her out. Alaska should be a bright red state, and they need to take out Lisa Murkowski. Now, take out meaning the election, okay? She was asked about what would you do. It's a quick clip on this GD Politics podcast, but listen.
But was that a yes? Yes, there's some openness to it.
There is some openness to exploring something different than the status quo. How's that?
Okay. All right. I'll take it.
Look, he's so happy. Some openness to exploring something different than the status quo. Well, the status quo is she's a Republican. She went on to say she doesn't agree with a lot of policies of the Democrats. Well, I'm sure that's the case. You would hope, even if you're quarter of a Republican, I don't know how you would side with Democrats. Then there was talk, would she go to the Libertarian Party? She's not a Libertarian. Not even close to being a Libertarian. And I will tell you, for Libertarians out there, I have respect for you. Some of your ideas are very bad. Okay? Some of your ideas are very, very good. I like Libertarians better than I like Democrats. That's for sure. I like America First conservatives. Conservatives like Trump and Marjorie Taylor Greene and Boebert and Andy Biggs and my buddy Tim Burchett, all of these folks in Washington would be good examples of America First conservatives, which is where I think we need to be with all of this, and we should be there with all of this. All right, folks, listen to me. My friends over at the Wellness Company have done a great job with a parasite cleanse. I don't know if you heard about this, but parasites are now infecting up to 60 million Americans. They thrive in your body. So the Wellness Company has a parasite cleanse that is sold out 3 times now, okay? I want you to look at this. It's disgusting. That is a worm in your salmon at a grocery store. We see parasites in the Mississippi Delta, parasites in your water supply. If you have pets, you most likely have parasites on your body. So what can you do? This concoction of mebendazole and ivermectin, an FDA-approved human use parasite concoction, is getting it done for so many people, including myself. I started a course of this. Go to the Wellness Company's website, twc.health/grant. Fill out an intake form. They'll just call you. The doctor will see if it's right for you. If you have some of these symptoms, brain fog, eczema, even cancer. This ivermectin in cancer has been tremendous to see. Go to twc.health/grant. And while you're there, get yourself one of these prescription medication kits to make sure that you are covered. You know, I talked about this, God forbid, a terrorist attack. You want to have prescription medications on hand. I've got ammunition, food, and water. I've got power supply. I also have prescription medications. Ivermectin in this kit as well. So, again, twc.health/grant. Use that promo code GRANT for 10% off. All right. Lastly, folks, I want to say we're coming up on July 4th. It is a very important holiday for the greatest nation in the world. You are the greatest audience in the world. We're the greatest body of people in the world, protected by the greatest military in the world, and protected by a lot of people who put a flag on their shoulder around the country. And they do it to keep us safe. So a big thanks to all of them as we celebrate America's birthday. God bless all of you. I'm Grant Stinchfield. Stinchfield's Army rolls. Thanks for watching.